Hello and welcome to the Island Lamb. I'm Diane. This is episode 44. It is October 21st and I am here in the Historical Dodge Cemetary. And I'll take you through it in a minute, and later in the podcast I'll share some details about the cemetery. But I just thought it would be a gorgeous backdrop for the Phosphine sweater. You've seen this. I've had it on the mannequin. I think I had it on the blocking mat. This morning I did woven all the ends, and so it's the first time I've had it on, and I'm thrilled with the fit. If you recall, one of the concerns I had, it wasn't a concern, but an opportunity I had, is the sweater was designed to be much shorter, and the sleeves were going to be shorter. But I wanted a really long sleeve, and I wanted this color work to match up. If you've been following me, you know I like symmetry, and that was important to me. And I wanted this long cuff, and I wanted this long here. I just can't say enough about this pattern. And again, we'll talk about that more in the podcast. The color work is gorgeous. We've got cables, we have pearl stitches, we have moss stitch, and is that just not gorgeous? And I can tuck that up a little bit if I want, and give it a little bit of a bouncy look. I think that looks nice like that, but oh, do I just love this. And I thought the gray next to these gray stones, and it's a gorgeous day on Block Island. I can't even begin to tell you. The sky is cerulean blue. We haven't had rain. We haven't had wind. It's been clear and calm. And as a matter of fact, this is going to be too warm. I'm out here pretty early in the morning because I wanted to get a chance to wear this, but it's going to get up to 70 degrees today. Okay, let me take you for a little walk through the cemetery. Hello and welcome to the Island Lamb. I'm Diane and this is episode 44. October. Beautiful, gorgeous October. Today is the 21st and it is 70 degrees out. It's been an incredible couple of days. The whole week is supposed to be beautiful. We have a little chill in the air at night, so it's great for sleeping, but you can get out and hike and walk. And I saw people in shorts and t-shirts today. And you can lay out on your back deck, you can go down to the beach. It's incredible to have this gift of great weather in October. It's my favorite month, and I love everything about October. I love the bounty, the squashes and pumpkins and Indian corn and, the marigolds and the food, the pumpkin spice, walking through a pumpkin patch, buying mums, and I just love this month. I feel energized, and I think a lot of us crafters and knitters feel that because we finally get to hunker down. I'm not really hunkering down because I can still be outside, but I have been knitting. All I think about is knitting. I just either want to knit, make a puzzle, or make something spicy like a chili or a latte or a pumpkin spice coffee, and light a candle and just enjoy this time of year. And I hope you're doing the same. And if you haven't gotten a chance to do any of these things yet, I hope that you will before the month is out. You never know what, especially on Block Island, we never know what November is going to bring. We can have a nor'easter in November, so taking advantage of this time of year. And I hope you enjoyed that little bit of footage from the very beginning where I took you into Dodge Cemetery. So I've only been there twice. Today was my second time. The first time I found it by accident when I took just one of the trails off of the Enchanted Forest Trail. And I was surprised when I saw the little sign, Dodge Cemetery. I'd never heard of it. I followed the trail. I found this little cemetery. And so when I finished the Phosphine sweater, which I'll talk about in a second, I was thinking about styling it, where I wanted to photograph it. You had seen it on the mannequin before. Actually, I think in 2 episodes you had seen it on the mannequin. I know on Ravelry I've shown it flat. I just wanted to put it on, and I thought that that cemetery would be a good place for it to, the grays of the stones, and I just thought it'd be a good place to photograph it. So we actually arrived there by going down John Dodge Road. So speaking of John Dodge, as I was walking through the cemetery and looking at the stones, I noticed there was only one stone that I could make out that said Dodge. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I see a lot of rose, I see a lot of Littlefield, but I only see one Dodge. I wonder why it's called Dodge Cemetery. So I did a little research, and here's what I found. So John Dodge owned property and lived in that area, and it was his cemetery. It was established in 1861, and he is buried there. He had 2 daughters. Each of his daughters married a Rose, and by the way, John married a Rose. So the Rose family must have been a pretty good sized family. So I saw a lot of roses, so those must have been the daughters and their children. And then one of the roses, one of the Dodge girls married a Littlefield Rose, so I did see some Littlefields there as well. In 1925, Daniel H. Rose built the beautiful stone wall around the cemetery. And in 1934, the cemetery was conveyed to the town of New Shoreham, which is Block Island. So as I was thinking about that cemetery, I decided I also wanted to show you or take a photo of our island cemetery. And in that cemetery, you will see some gravestones that go back to the late 1600s. And First Cemetery, it has one of the best views on the island. It looks east, it looks north, you can see the water. It's a beautiful area, and a lot of people will just go walk and take a look at some of the stones. There are some tours that you can take on Block Island if you want a guided tour of the cemetery, and it's still an active cemetery, so occasionally my husband and I have been there for a funeral as well. So now let's talk about the Fossveien. So I did feature the Fossveien in a couple of episodes, and let's see, episode 35 and 37. As I mentioned, you saw it on the mannequin. You know that I was sort of, I got it knit up, and then I was working on the sleeves, and I realized that if I wanted the sleeves to be as long as I wanted them to be, and the rib as long as I wanted it to be, the pattern on the sleeve wasn't going to match up with the pattern on the body. And if, for those of you who have followed me, I like symmetry, and I really like when I put on a sweater that has a pattern that my sleeves match up with my body. So I thought about that for a little while, and I thought, well, maybe I'll make the sleeves a little different, and then I realized, no, I wanted the body to be longer as well. So how I accomplished that is First I added one more cable, and then I repeat, and then I realized that's not going to do it. So I added 2 more cable repeats, and I made my hem longer, and I made my cuff longer, and I made the sleeve long enough so that my patterning would match up. It's the only thing I modified, except okay, so the designer is, just give me a second, I have it right here, Inga Semmingson. And she recommended Hillesvåg yarn, and I couldn't find Hillesvåg yarn easily. I was going to have to order it from out of the country, and I put in a search. There's a couple of programs you can use on the internet where you can look for yarn substitutions. And one of the first substitutions that came up was Cascade 220 non-superwash sport weight. And as I looked through Ravelry and I looked at all the projects made for this, I noticed several people used Cascade. I had never tried the sport weight. And I was happy to see that it came in a non-superwash. They have over 32 different colors, and I'd had great luck with Cascade 220 in their worsted weights. So look at the colors. Look at the stitch definition. It's an exquisite pattern. It's top down, it's in the round. We have structure, we have texture, we have color work, we have some simplicity. It's so easy to wear, and this yarn is so comfortable. So when I photographed it this morning, it was already getting warm, and I didn't even have a camisole on underneath it. I'm sure I'm going to wear this with a turtleneck as we get into the winter months with some, stretchies and my riding boots. I think that's just going to be a great look. But today I had it on without a camisole or anything underneath. I didn't feel the least bit scratchy in it. Cascade 220 sport weight is very affordable, great yardage, always available on webs in a multitude of colors. I think that you will also remember that I made my artist shawl with Cascade 220 sport weight. After I made this, I was like, I have to make something else in that yarn. So I recommend this pattern. I recommend the yarn. As you know, I made it longer. The other thing I think I would think about if I were to make it again. So see in the front how the cables come right out of the stocking knit stitches in between the diamonds. Because of the short rows and where they're placed in the back, we have a lot more stocking knit before we reach the cables. I did see on Ravelry that some folks moved where they did their short rows to avoid that. I decided to go with the pattern. I don't think it takes away. You don't see the front and the back at the same time, but if I were to make it again, I might consider moving the short rows and bringing that cable, the moss stitch and the cable up so it's the same all the way around. But that's a minor change that I would make. So I do recommend this. And if you do decide to knit this, let me know what you think and what kind of yarn you used. Because again, I think I am going to make this again. Okay, so what do I have on? Well, I have on, I had to take this off because it got up to 70 degrees. And we've taken the screens out of the windows and we thought we were getting ready for colder weather, but it's just, I've got the fan on right now. It's just too warm. So this is, I have to remember, this is the Autumn League pullover. It's by Two of Wands. I initially saw this on Bobby of the Knitter's Niche. She was working on it. I bought the same yarn that was recommended for the pattern, which is Lion brand. It's 100% cotton. I referred to this several times in episode 30 and 31. It wears like a sweatshirt. It's a no-brainer. It's very comfortable. I've worn it with something underneath it. Right now I don't have anything on underneath it, and it's a fun, easy to knit pattern. Okay, so what is on the mannequin? Well, last episode I showed you I had cast this on. I was just starting to work on it. This is the Book Club cardigan. This is by Sari Norland. I am going to take this off of the mannequin and get it this closer to you. Let's see if we can do that without a catastrophe. Okay. Okay. So I've taken it off the mannequin. I'll get a little closer. This is the back. It's beautiful. We have moss cables, this beautiful diamond cable, moss, it repeats, it wraps around the front, moss, cable, diamond pattern. Let's get a little bit more information for you. This is a Sari Norland design. It is it's supposed to be a relaxed fit, drop shoulder. Let's see if you can see that drop shoulder. Seamless. You're going back and forth, so you are going to be purling. You start at the back neck. You're going to increase to the full width. You're going to pick up along the slope for the shoulders and for the sleeves. I'm using Knit Picks, their worsted weight yarn. Very soft, great stitch definition. This color is Holly Berry. Beautiful color. Okay, what have I discovered? Well, as usual, I wanted it to be a little bit longer. Now, what I didn't take into account was the placement for the top of the pocket. I think it's going to be okay. I'm certainly not taking it out. But I probably, because if I had just followed the pattern, I would have started my hem here. but I wanted it longer, and I did an extra diamond. So my hem is now here. I probably should have dropped my top of my pocket to here, or at least to here. So it's gonna be interesting to see how I feel about it. I hadn't really intended to use the pocket. It's pretty narrow. It's gonna be, you know, not too far from my bust line, really. And I can't just do away with it because there is a knit to purl to rib that's going to be at the top of the pocket. I'm hoping it's going to be okay. I haven't blocked it, obviously. What I'm doing now is I am doing my tubular bind off, cast off. I'm going to do that on both my sleeves, and I have to do it on the body. Then I'll be picking up the stitches and working the button band, and we'll just see. I also did not make it so that it would be a lofty fit. I wanted it to be kind of a long, slender look. So I'm hoping that once I get it blocked and I get the button, you know, the button band on and I get it blocked, that I'm okay with where those pockets are going to be. I mean, right now it sticks out like a sore thumb because I have the waist yarn in there. Hopefully once I get them done, and it won't be too bulky. I haven't even gotten to the part of the directions for making the inside of the pocket. I may make this on very, very thin yarn. I may not even, you know, I may just let the top appear to be open and not even go all the way down. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'll wait and see how it fits before I decide to not cut in, but pull out those stitches and finish the pocket. It's a beautiful, beautiful pattern. It looks complicated, right? It isn't. I did it on Knit Companion. It's so repetitive, it's so visual that you see what you're doing. You know you're on moss stitch, you know where you are, you know when you need to go left, you know when you need to go right. It's seed stitch inside the diamond. This cable here is so visible, you know when you need to go left, you know when you need to go right. And to be honest with you, it seems like a lot of knitting to go from left to right. I loved it. I could sit and watch TV. Oh, I'm on the row where I'm going right on the, you know what you're doing. It's so clear. And even when you're doing it on the wrong side, you know what you're doing. But it was fun on the sleeve to work in the round and not have to do the purl, to purl, unless the pattern called for a purl, but you weren't doing the reverse side. So another thing to think about, if you're going to make this, just pay attention when you're going back and forth on the body, you're reading the pattern from right to left and then left to right. When you're on the sleeve, you're reading the pattern from right to left, right to left, right to left, because you're going around in a circle. I recommend it. I love it. Wish me luck when it comes time to put it together, that I didn't make a mistake with those sleeves. I think it's going to be okay. And I'm hoping that by the time I put the button band on, the fit's going to be fine. I really don't think this is the kind of sweater that I would want to button. I think it's just going to look great just hanging loose like that. So I'm close to finishing that. So what am I thinking about? Oh, I'm thinking about so many things, and one of them is, well, not one of them, but I'm always thinking about green. I love the color green. You see, I haven't made too much green. I mean, there was some in that color work, but that was mostly gray. I've had the red going on. I did the blue cardigan. I did my blue boyfriend sweater, so I've been thinking about green again. My husband and I went off island a couple of weeks ago, and we stopped at the Mermaid's Pearl, which is my local yarn shop in the beautiful historic town of Wickford, Rhode Island. And I didn't really have a plan when I went. I was actually returning a skein of yarn from my mother's sweater that I hadn't finished, that I hadn't used, and I wasn't really sure that I was even going to buy any yarn. Silly, right? I'm not going to buy any yarn in a yarn shop. So anyway, when I went in, I saw a sample knit up of the Daydreamer by andreamowry. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, I like that. I'll probably make it longer. I'll probably make it a little closer to the body. But I really liked the texture. And it was made up in a worsted weight, fingering weight, and one strand of fingering and one strand of mohair. And I had such fun making my cardigan, that blue cardigan, that knitting for olive pattern, using a fingering weight and a mohair. I was like, oh yeah, I could sign up for that again. And I was thinking about green. So, brace yourself. This is so gorgeous. This is La Bien-Aimée. This is the silk mohair. Look at that. This is the La Bien-Aimée, and this is the cashmerino fingering weight. Is that, I hope I can pull those colors off. I think I can. I mean, there's some emerald green in there. There's some olivey green. There's a forest green. And we look at the mohair. It glistens. So, I love this yarn. Cashmerino. Let me see if I can give you the whole. 75% merino, 15% cashmere, 10% nylon. The colorway is Shire. And then we know this is silk mohair. So when you just think about that combination, silk, mohair, merino, cashmere, beautiful. Well, I started knitting on this pattern. I love andreamowry. Now, you know I've made a number of Andrea's patterns. I made the stone crop pullover. I made the, I can't think of the name of it now, but you know, the one I had to steek. Oh, and I love that. I've made several. I'm having a little trouble with this pattern, and it's no fault of the designer. I think it has to do with the fact that I am dyslexic, and this pattern constantly has you moving left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, and there is no break in the action of that. And I'm going to show you what I mean. Well, you can kind of see in the picture, this is honeycomb, this is honeycomb, this is honeycomb underneath. And then there's this cable bobble pattern and bobble pattern. I'm not having a problem with the patterns per se. What I'm having difficulty with is on every other row having to deal with, am I going left? Am I going right? Am I going right? Am I going left? And as a dyslexic person, there's a lot of ways I manage that. I can, I know little tricks to help me with that. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle an all-over design with these constant lefts and rights and rights and lefts and Andrea's own little way of drawing it. And then, even though it's a knit companion, the pattern is on one page, the description is on another page, the symbol is on another page. I'm going to try to combine them all together. I had to stop. I did get the rib on, so it's a split. So you start with the back, you get the back stitches on. You're not doing a knit 1 purl 1 or a knit 2 purl 2. For 28 stitches, you're doing knit 2 purl 2, and then you're doing something else, and then knit 1 purl 1, knit 1 purl 1, and then something else, and then knit 2 purl 2. And so I think that probably for most people, this is a piece of cake. You would think making that book club cardi would have been problematic for me, but it was not. I've got some choices. So my first choice is to just persevere. Maybe not even do it in Knit Companion. Maybe make a board and blow up the pattern on my printer and line these things up and make some notes so I can visually. I love a chart because it helps me. I am much better reading a chart than I am reading a sentence. So that's one thought, just persevere and see if I can get some rhythm going. The other thought is, instead of having that honeycomb under the arm, which is 28 stitches in the front and 28 stitches in the back, so 56 stitches of the honeycomb, and then again here and again here, maybe just making this moss stitch underneath, and then just dealing with the honeycomb, twice in the front and twice in the back. Another thought was to scrap it completely and use this glorious yarn to make something else. So I think it has to be, I think I'm going to first try to persevere, maybe with a board initially, and work on it early in the morning, And it's funny because I was chatting with who was I chatting with? One of the gals that I had over for a knit night, which I'll talk about in a minute. And she's much like I am. She likes a chart better than reading, and she said early in the morning is when she's best at problem solving and can do complicated things. And that's me. I like to get up at as early as I, pop out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and sit down with my complicated, more challenging projects. So that's what I'm going to try. And if that doesn't work, then maybe, if that doesn't work, I'm going to have to rip out at least 4 rows, because if I'm going to go to the moss stitch, I have to do that again. So then I'm thinking, if I'm going to rip out, I'm going to rip out the whole thing and then just look for a different pattern. So wish me luck on that. But this yarn is just glorious. That's a treat, right? That's a treat. Okay. All right. So while I was in between, contemplating what was going on with the book club cardi, and then thought I was going to focus on this daydreamer and realized I needed to slow down on that, I just went back to knitting socks. And that is always a refreshing way for me to reset. I know I've shown these to you before, but I'm going to show you again because this is the Van Gogh collection by Opal. And I showed you the sunflower. I gave us a pair to my friend. I just made these for her husband, Rich, our friend. And I think I showed you this one already. And I just finished another one. Look at this one. Is that color combination just beautiful? And I want to show you the photo of the painting. And I think I have it right here. Yes. Look at this. So that's what I've been doing to just let my mind relax about these 2 projects. Okay, what else have I purchased for yarn? Well, I watch Ivana from the Republic of Me, her podcast, and she's oftentimes using Drops Flora yarn. I had never tried any Drops yarn, especially Flora, and Ivana has this recipe, as she calls it, called the in and out, and it's a pullover. And I've seen her make it for herself, for her mom, for her sister. I've seen her make it several times. And she was making her mom one in this color. And I think she also carries a cobweb mohair or another strand along with it. And she uses 5 skeins, I believe, when she makes it for herself. So she was just making it for her mom, and she realized she wasn't going to have enough yarn to finish her mom's. And as it is, she's making it in 3/4. And I had already bought 5 skeins, and I'm definitely bigger than Ivana, and probably maybe more like her mom, or even maybe larger. So I've backed off a little bit. I'm not disappointed that I bought this yarn. This is an alpaca and wool blend. And it is, 65% wool, 65% wool, 35% alpaca. There are 230 yards. It is fingering weight. So I'm going to think about this a little bit. I love the color. I could extend this by adding a silk mohair with it. I don't have to make the in and out. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to do with this, but isn't that another gorgeous color? So that's Drops Flora. Going to be the first time using that. All right, so where are we now? Okay, for those of you in New England, you probably are aware, or in the Northeast, you're probably aware that Rhinebeck was this weekend. So that is the New York Sheep and Wool Festival. And 2 years ago I went. When I first started podcasting, I let you know that I had gone, and I met andreamowry, and it was wonderful. I went with my cousin and a good friend, and we had a wonderful time. Last year, I hadn't planned on going, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. They had rain, and it was kind of muddy. I think Rhinebeck was still a success. I think some of the other festivals that happened around it had some issues. I thought about going this year, but I decided not to go. and they had fabulous weather, and I'm just starting to see some of the podcasts and some of the photos and videos that are coming out of it, and I'm so happy for everyone who went. One of the reasons I decided not to go is because my cousin, who you have met or maybe you haven't met her, but I've talked about her quite a bit, invited me to join her. She lives in Barrington, which is a sweet town in Rhode Island, and it's a little bit north of Providence. It's east of Providence. So the capital of Rhode Island is Providence, so it's north and then east of Providence. And Gundrid Johnston, who is a knitwear designer originally from Shetland, she was born in Shetland, is now living in Massachusetts, is going to be teaching a class at my cousin's local yarn shop in Barrington, Rhode Island, and it's in mid-November. And so that is going to be it's not Rhinebeck, but that is going to be my fun experience, going to a yarn shop I've never been to, in a town I love, with my cousin who I love, and a designer that I haven't knit any of her designs yet, but she has been on my bucket list. So Gundrid Johnston, born in Shetland, living in Massachusetts, prolific knitwear designer, incorporates a modern day feel and look to her patterns, yet her patterns are inspired by her Shetland heritage. Her website is theshetlandtrader.com. She's all over Ravelry. She is in, so one of the little booklets that I'm thinking about getting, and I hope they're going to have it at this yarn shop, is the Shetland Trader Book 3 called Heritage, and I'm showing you some photos. So we're going to have a 2-day. It's a couple of hours each day. And the first day is going to be a slideshow and a lecture, and we're going to get to know her and her aesthetic and, about her heritage, her culture. And then the second day is a Fair Isle Tasters class where she will be providing the Jameson and Smith yarn, which I've never knit on. We're going to make a swatch in the round, which I've never done. I know how to do it, but I never take the time to do it. I mean, I've seen how to do it, but I've never done it. She's going to do some steeking. We're going to do some color work. We're going to learn her technique on how to carry the floats. And so I'm really looking forward to that. So that is going to be my Rhinebeck experience this year, is going to be going to Barrington and taking this class with Gundrid. So I can't wait to tell you about that. Hopefully she'll let me, I won't film the class obviously, but hopefully she'll let me get some video footage of her maybe and the yarn shop, or maybe some photos. So I'll share that with you in November. Okay, so what else did I want to tell you? Oh, okay, so just getting back to October and what have we done so far. We had a great week, a little over a week off island. We went to Narragansett, which is on the other side when we get off the ferry. And we visited with some family, and we went to one of our favorite pizza restaurants. And then we went to my mom's, and we spent a night with her and went out to dinner with her and my sister-in-law. And then we took a lovely drive down up to the Cape, or over to the Cape, once again east. And we went to Cape Cod, and our friends live in Orleans. We had a wonderful 4 or 5 days, great walks. They have the Cape Cod Rail Trail, which is where the railroad used to go, and now it's a walking and a bike path. And it connects, I forget how many towns on Cape Cod, but you can walk most of the Cape on this, or ride your bike on most of the Cape. We walked through the shops and the little vintage stores and some of the thrift shops, and we had a lovely lunch at a fairly new Italian market restaurant where the owner's parents are from Sicily, and we got to chat with her and had a fabulous cappuccino and a nice lunch. And we met another couple of friends who live in Falmouth, and we met halfway in the beautiful little town of Barnstable. And I'm going to tell you a quick little story and then show you a photo. So I have had a vision of myself wearing a Harris tweed blazer, and I didn't want something new. I've been on the websites looking. I wanted something maybe a little vintage. I kind of wasn't even going to be mind if it were used and if it were a men's, because I wanted something with a little shoulder pad. I wanted something in either a charcoal gray or a dark brown with that tweed going through it, and in good condition. That was, you know, I want it in good condition. And I kind of proclaimed that to the universe. I told my husband, I told my mom when we got to the Cape, and my friend asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, oh, I want to walk and definitely go to some of the fairs. And I'm going to keep my eyes open for a Harris tweed blazer. And I'm showing you a photo. So we had this great walk in the morning, and then we decided to walk through town, and we went into this little vintage clothing store, and it was there. And I picked it up and I put it on, and I was like, oh my, this is it. And I look inside, and it's Harris tweed, Hebridean, Scotland. It has a serial number on it. It's in mint condition. It doesn't even look like it was ever worn. It's definitely a man's. I can tell by the sizing. You know, when I'm showing you, and when I lift up the collar, the tailoring on it is fabulous. So that was such a treat, and I wanted to wear it the whole time. When we went out to dinner with our friends, I wore it that night, and my little brown suede boots and my jeans, and it's going to be the type of blazer I'm going to wear all the time. And so that was kind of fun. And I'm going to tell you one other quick little story. So you know, I was knitting those sunflower socks for my friend, and that's the Vincent van Gogh collection. And I had sunflowers on my mind, so I put together a little hostess gift, which included an apron with sunflowers on it and cocktail napkins that had sunflowers. And I bought a card that I planned on leaving when we left, just to thank them for their hospitality, and the socks. And so we arrive on the Cape, and we're sitting and we're chit-chatting, and we get talking about books. And Mary Lou and I she's in a book club, and she's always letting me know what they're reading, and I do the same. And she starts telling me about this book, and I don't have the title in front of me right now. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. But the story is basically of Vincent van Gogh's sister, and how she was responsible for bringing his art to the world. And she's talking, and she's going on, and sunflower is in the title. And she's saying sunflower, and she's saying Vincent van Gogh, and she's talking about this book. And I know it's in the gift basket that she hasn't looked at yet. And I finally said, okay, I can't take it anymore. Open the basket, open the bag. And so sunflower, Vincent van Gogh art, it's like, you know, you start the universe swirling when you say what you want. And I said I wanted to find a Harris tweed, and I started thinking about sunflowers for my friend, and she suddenly is talking about sunflowers. And I believe that, you know, we're connected to the universe, and we can't take that lightly. So anyway, I hope I'm going to include some footage along the way. We did go to a pumpkin patch. We got some pumpkins and some mums, and saw some foliage on the drive to the Cape. And we did some glorious walks when the goldenrod was in full peak. And so I'm going to leave you with a lot of footage. So, you know, I hope you'll stay for that. And I'm wishing you a beautiful October, and I'll see you in a little bit. Bye-bye.